Hey there, Bear Club! At the Mama Bear Initiative, we explore how to protect ourselves so we can protect our cubs, the people who depend on us. Join us and get the confidence you need to stay safe, make good choices, and protect yourself and those you care about. Let's go!
Hello and welcome back to the Mama Bear Initiative podcast. I'm Stephanie Dunham. I'd like to welcome you back to part 2 of our interview with Jackie Bradbury. We're going to pick up where we left off in the last episode. I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day.
I do not. I'm always paying attention, and I look around the entire time I'm walking.
Yeah,
I am not a broken-legged gazelle. I'm telling you that right now.
Yes.
one of my favorite ones to talk about is as soon as you get in your car, lock your door.
Absolutely.
Such an easy thing to do.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I do the same. Yep. For sure. And so, again, what that is, the details of that is going to be different for each person. The life they live, the kind of vehicles they have. If they have a vehicle at all, you might depend on public transit. So you have to think about, okay, so where are my danger points in public transit and how would I handle it, right? And it's thinking about it ahead of time and not in the moment.
Right.
Right? Because 90% of self-defense is really just not being there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why go into situations where you're going to be in trouble? That doesn't make sense to me.
So when I lived in Texas, the Texas they have the Texas State Fair, which is in Dallas. And one year, they had a gang, a huge crowd of teenagers who were basically knocking. As people came out of the fair, they hit them and take their money. It was like a crowd of them in the parking lot.
Wow.
And they were fighting. There's all sorts of stuff.
Awful.
And this is hullabaloo that was going on, and people were walking right into it. Right?
Wow.
And it's like, my car's on the other side. I'm like, you don't have to leave right now. You can go back into the fair. It wasn't closed.
Yeah.
You can just go stand there.
Right.
Wait. Right? So we let those things talk us out of doing what's right for our own self-defense. There is a video. Unfortunately, the video itself isn't on the internet anymore, and I wish I had saved it. There's still a news report about this incident. Took place in downtown Denver. Guy kind of just lost it. And he picked up like a big chunk of construction material. It was either a pipe or it was like a 2x4, something big and long. And he just started hitting people in the middle of day in downtown Denver. And okay, number one, every one of them had a backpack on. Backpack defense. But also he's going and they were like, walk, and they're walking right at him and they're looking at him. Because their brain wouldn't believe what their eyes were telling them, because that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that someone is doing this, right? How? And it takes a while for it to process in your mind, right? So they just kept walking into it because they didn't believe it was real. You just can't. Or that whole thing we talked about a little earlier, right? It's not going to happen to me.
Right.
He's targeting those guys over there. He's not going to come after me. And then he crossed the street and come after those other guys, right? You just can't predict.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult. And I think that's just human nature. It's difficult to believe your eyes sometimes because it's so alien.
It is.
It's
such an odd thing for us to see something like that. We don't even think about it.
Exactly. I mean, this is not a self-defense topic, but some of the footage from the Hamas attack on Israel on the music festival really kind of breaks my heart. And I've watched a lot of it, mainly because they didn't quite understand what was happening because their brains would not compute. It's like, these guys are parachuting in, and we wouldn't think that they were up to anything nefarious, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like we can't help it. We're never going to be perfect, and I think you can't let every time you have risk all day, every day, no matter what you do. It's just the way it is. And so you have to think about, okay, what are the most likely things and prep for those. But you also have to live your life. You can't live your life constantly paranoid all the time. And I think sometimes self-defense training gives you that message, especially to women. It's trying to scare you. And you shouldn't, we should not be living our lives in fear because that doesn't help.
Right.
It doesn't help.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what a lot of self-defense for women is aimed at. Now,
Mhm.
the violence men face are very different, and the reasons they face violence is very different. And they never ever talk about women on women violence and why that happens
Huh.
and how that's going to
Right.
go. Because you and I,
That's
all
true.
four of us know what's going to happen if a woman and another woman square off and they're going to fight. What's the first thing they're going to do?
Grab their hair.
After they stop talking,
Yeah.
grab their
Pull
hair.
hair.
Thank you. They're going to go
Yes,
straight for the
that's
hair.
immediately.
And I
Yep.
didn't even have to
Yep.
cue you guys. You knew exactly what I was going to say, right?
Certain,
After we
yeah.
stop jawing, because we talk
Yeah.
a lot, right? We have
Right.
to build ourselves
Yes.
up. Actually, most conflicts are like that. After we build ourselves up, the first thing we're going to do, somebody's going to get somebody else by the hair, and they're going to start, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Jerking around.
Yep.
right, and
Mhm.
so we just don't think about that. And so, I've seen
Yeah.
self defense where like, well, we're going to do a handshake defense. They're trying to squeeze your hand. That never happens to women. Nobody ever does that to us.
Right.
Right.
No,
Right.
it just doesn't happen to us, right? And so,
I asked
Yeah.
I asked my husband once, like, if you wanted to kidnap me, how would you do it? Like, how would you grab me? He said, I'd grab you by your ponytail and put your arm behind you and drag you off.
Wow. That's
and the thing
crazy.
is that that's really common. There's been I don't know the individual involved, but there was an interview with a guy who was like a serial rapist, right? And they asked him like, so
Mm.
what did you look for in a victim? And number one, ponytail.
Ponytail.
Mhm.
Yeah. I heard that too.
I mean, it's a handle.
Yeah, it is. Actually, that's what he called it.
Yeah.
He called it a rape handle.
Wow.
Mm.
That's crazy.
I know, and it's
And
just it's so
terrifying.
gross to think of, right? But it's like
Right.
Right.
that someone
Yeah.
would go, "That's a good idea." It's like, ooh, yeah, you need to be in jail for a long time, son,
Yeah.
for sure.
Right.
Yes,
Seriously.
and so I have long
Oh my
hair,
gosh.
and so it doesn't mean that no women should have long hair and wear ponytails. It just means be aware. That's all.
Be aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, where are you going?
Yes.
What are you going to be doing?
Mhm.
What could possibly happen? Just
Right.
use some common
Should you
sense.
take your
it
hair
seems
out?
to me.
Or wear a hat or something like
Yeah,
that.
or if you have a
That's like
ponytail,
grab
just
your ponytail.
just don't look behind you sometimes,
Right.
Right.
right?
Right.
We get
Be
so
aware. Yeah.
right,
Common
and
sense.
again, if you're not buried in your phone or your tablet or
Mhm.
whatever, you're listening to something. The easiest thing you can do is like if you're like out running, because women joggers get accosted. It's not unusual. The number one thing you can do is only have one headphone in when you're listening to your music, so you can hear people coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's something that I've done because I'm on some backcountry roads,
Mhm.
and we don't even have a shoulder. I mean, if a car is coming, you're jumping up into the there's like a bank on
Yeah.
the side. You're going
Sure.
to climb the bank. I don't
Mhm.
even wear headphones, and I'm aware, and I can hear when cars are coming,
And you
the
pay
whole
attention
thing.
to those
But
noises, and don't get so wrapped up in your podcast or your book or your music to not pay attention to your surroundings. And
yeah,
men
Right.
and women both get assaulted that way in parks and on roadways all the time because they can't hear it.
Mhm.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
listening to a book or a podcast, even certain songs can just take you out of your environment for a while.
Exactly.
And that's
Definitely.
like the opposite of what you want.
Exactly. And
You're trying to
so
cultivate awareness.
yeah, I mean, think about if I had to ride public transit all the time, I probably would want to listen to like a book or something like that,
Mhm.
but I would only have one ear in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
still aware.
I think being somebody who likes to do activities in the gym, having music in helps me get into a zone so that I'm not
Mhm.
focused on the pain of whatever it is I'm doing. So I think people who are out walking or jogging or whatever are trying to
Mhm.
get into a zone so they can go longer or harder or whatever. But like you're saying, they don't realize that they're doing themselves a harm by being so distracted by what they're doing that, like, Evelyn has a true crime story about a woman who had do you remember that, Evelyn, the woman who was she went the same route
Yeah, the
every
same route.
day,
Yeah, and it was
Same
like
headphones
time.
pre-dawn
in.
hours. Yep,
Yeah.
headphones in. It was like just before dawn, so it was still pretty dark. And she just, she's jogging. There was footage of it, and this guy sort of
Hmm.
like pulls past her, and then he goes back, and she's just oblivious, and he just jumps out of his car and grabs her and pulls her in.
And she
And
died.
after just a few minutes, like you could tell something was going on in the cab of his truck, and she lost her life.
Yep.
A
Yeah.
young wife, young mother,
Yeah.
just gone.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
when you have those issues of awareness, when you have those issues of just knowing what's around and the reasons why women experience violence, it's more complex than a lot of women's self-defense that you see out there will address. It really is 99% dude drags you into the bushes, and um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but it is a reality. And so when you're thinking about if you do get serious about self-defense, there's books you can read. There's things you can do that don't require martial arts at all, and a lot of that
Right.
you can do on your own. And then if you want to go, okay,
Yeah.
so the next level, how would I physically deal with someone? Well, that's what martial arts training's for, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's
Right.
about.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, okay, well, and if you decide, I mean, one of my favorite books on this topic is Rory Miller's Meditations on Violence. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic book. It really makes you think about the process of
Mhm.
what am I willing to do, and knowing my own heart and deciding for myself, okay, am I willing to use lethal force or not? Right? Because you have to decide if you are, if you're not, because you have to understand the consequences if you
Absolutely.
are or if you're not. Right?
Right.
If you're not,
Right.
that's fine.
Mhm.
Then know what you're going to do. Right? And then it
Mm-hmm.
goes down,
Right.
sort of like
Yeah.
down the list. Are you willing to hurt someone badly, or not?
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
you have, and it's a different answer. We're 4 different people talking today,
Right.
and all of us may have different answers, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But you got to ask those
Right.
questions beforehand and
Yeah.
decide what works for you, and then
Yeah.
decide what your strategy is based on what your answers are.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, our next question, I kind of feel like maybe you've answered some, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. If there's anything additional you want to add to things you've already said,
Sure.
feel free. If you feel like you can't answer the question, we'll just move on to the last one. So what are some assumptions you're aware of in regard to self-defense, especially self-defense for women?
So
I don't know if you have a different answer for that.
Actually, I do have an additional thing I'd like to kind of get on my soapbox about.
Oh, good.
Feel free.
Okay.
Yes.
So you will
We
hear
love it.
people claim that short course women's self-defense is useless, where you go, you get introduced to a topic, you learn 1 or 2 ways to get a release so you can get out of a situation, right? Or you learn 1
Mhm.
or 2 basic strikes like
Mhm.
elbows, kicks, really fundamental stuff, right? That you can
Mhm.
learn on a weekend.
Yeah.
I've heard people
Mhm.
claim that that
Right.
is useless. I don't think
Right.
that's true. I think there's
Mm.
too many examples of people. There's and I wish I could find the story for you, but there was a woman who literally took like a course over the weekend, and then she got assaulted in a park bathroom. It was in California. I want to say it was in San
Oh
Francisco
wow.
area, but I could be wrong. She got assaulted in a
Mhm.
bathroom, fought the guy off, and was successful based on what she learned. So
Wow.
I don't think that
In a
that's true.
weekend. That's great.
And they are saying
Yeah.
that because their assumption of what that violence is going to be like, they're assuming it's like a fight. It's like mutual combat, right? And
Mhm.
well, if
Right.
you fight me off, I'm just going to
Yeah.
hit you harder. And it's like you're not the kind of guy who's probably going to assault someone anyway,
Right.
because you're getting
Right.
into mutual
Right.
combat, which is not a self-defense. Mutual
Right.
combat's mutual combat. That's a whole different animal, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so this assumption that short course is useless, I think, is nonsense. I think attendance at a short course is better than nothing. I think it's better
Yes.
to at least
Mhm.
start the mentality. Does it mean you're going to be able to go toe to toe with some MMA fighter? No. We're not
No.
asking
No.
you to do that.
Obviously
That's not
not.
Right.
required for your self-defense. For a woman's self-defense, it's
Right.
not required. But I think anything we can do to encourage people to start thinking about the topic, even if it is a 2-hour lunch and learn, it's better than nothing. And starting to think about the topic
Yeah.
and let it kind of cook in their own head, because you
Agreed.
don't
Mhm.
know them starting to think about it. Maybe in 6 months to a year, as that's cooked in their brain, maybe they'll decide to take more action and get additional training. And that would be great. Maybe
Yeah.
they won't, but at least
Yeah.
they've
Never
got
know.
that one step down the path is better than not never stepping that at all and kind of hiding in the sand and pretending like it's never going to happen to me, which is what we do by default.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. So true.
I I agree with you about that. Sometimes it's just getting the mentality in a person that would make them take action. Even if they don't know what physically to
Yeah.
do, if they have the desire to fight somebody off, that may just be enough.
It might be.
Adrenaline kicks in, they might
Yeah.
figure something out on the fly. It's just, freezing is so common when
Yeah.
people are faced with
Mhm.
danger that what I used to tell people is we're training you not to freeze. We're
Exactly.
training you to respond to a threat. And that means you have to be willing to hurt someone. You have to be willing to be violent. You have to be willing to
Yes.
do what it takes to get away. And
Yeah.
feel the sense of injustice that comes with being assaulted.
Exactly.
All the things, that
Mhm.
require you to be outside of the freezing that could happen.
Right.
My
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
in our self-defense courses that we had in Texas, one of the examples we used is when I was a kid, we had a little orange tabby cat. Her name was Tigger, creatively enough. And
Love it.
next door there was a
Aw.
gigantic husky. He was huge, and that
Mm.
dog wanted to eat my cat like you would not believe. One day he catches her going across his yard, and she literally levitated out, all four paws. It was like shing, all her claws came out, and she absolutely went ape on his face. That
Oh
dog
dear.
never messed with that cat again.
Wow.
Because when the moment
bet.
comes, be an angry spitting cat. Nobody wants to pick up an angry spitting cat. Nobody,
True.
Truth.
Right.
right? And so you're the angry
Very
spitting
true.
cat. That maybe you'll decide to do like that husky did, and not mess with the cat anymore, right?
True.
I mean,
Right.
it's better. There have been too many situations, and the unfortunate truth is, there's too many situations where someone will confront another person, and again, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female here. They'll
Mhm.
confront that other person, get in the car because the idea is that they want to go take them to ATMs and take their money out, take them home, find
Mhm.
whatever's in their
Right.
house, whatever, and then they never find the person again, or they find them in the woods later, right? And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
like the first thing is like, don't let them take you anywhere. I would rather be killed in public, to be honest.
Mm.
And I have given
Oh.
this a lot of thought. I'd
Mm.
rather
Wow.
die in a public place on camera with lights than take them
Mhm.
to wherever they're going to want to take me and do whatever they're going to want to do.
Mm.
No,
Yeah.
they're going to catch my murder
Yeah.
on TV. That's what they're going to do, because that guy is not getting away with
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one
Yeah.
thing I can do, right? So I'm not going anywhere
Right.
with anybody ever. They're going to have to kill me in public. And but
Mhm.
there's been
Yeah.
so many examples of that. Well, if I'm nice, maybe they'll let me go. Yeah, you saw their face, right?
Not
Yeah.
really.
Exactly.
that's-
And the thing is,
yeah, that-
I'm not,
Yeah.
and I want to make it very clear, I'm not saying that people who made that choice did go and either the worst happened or they were let go, because it does happen, right? Made
Right.
a
Yeah.
poor
Right.
choice.
True.
I'm not saying that they were wrong. I'm not saying they were bad.
Mhm.
In the moment you do what you do, right? And I don't think
Right.
there's any
Right.
wrong choice here.
Right.
They probably hadn't thought about it before, right? And
Yeah.
Right.
I this is one of those questions that you have to answer for yourself, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I have my answer, but
Yes.
again, I've gone through that soul searching, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you were saying, you thought it through.
Exactly. And I
It's
came to
so
that decision
important.
through a
Yes.
long thought process of consideration. And what did I feel like the best outcome, the outcome that I wanted to have? Because I don't have a lot of power in that situation, but there I got power.
Right.
And if it means
Mhm.
that's
Right.
the last thing I do, well, guess what? He's on camera. Screw
Yeah.
that guy,
Yeah.
right?
There you go.
I I don't think I've gone that far in thinking about how I'd respond to a threat, but I have come from a place where I know for sure I did not want to fight back. Like,
Mhm.
I was trained early as a
Yeah.
child through abuse to just lay there and take it silently
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
not react to what was going on. And when I figured
Yeah.
that out through my martial arts training during a grappling session, I felt like I had to take action for myself to overcome that feeling,
Sure.
because I never wanted to be caught in a situation where I was just going to take it. I want to
Yeah.
fight tooth and nail. Even if I die, I want to fight tooth and
Yeah.
nail to stop whatever's going on for myself or for someone else, if that's what it comes to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the experience that you had is it's a defense mechanism to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think
Mm-hmm.
there's anything wrong with that. And I
No,
think
not at
that
all.
people
Right.
make that sometimes that choice is the choice that needs to be made,
Right.
and
Right.
it's okay, right? There's nothing that the
Mm-hmm.
person who's being transgressed against is responsible for in that situation. There's no literally there's the victim is the victim, and I don't like using that term because I think sometimes we use it in a way that's negative, and I don't mean it that way. The person who's been
Right.
transgressed against is not
Mm-hmm.
responsible for what's happening in that moment. It's
Right.
always
And
the
I,
Right.
aggressor.
Yeah.
right. And I tell people, you know, even if the worst possible thing is happening to you, don't stop fighting. Even if fighting is enduring what's going on and calling the police afterwards,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Formulating a
Or go to the
Mhm.
plan.
hospital or whatever you have to do.
or go to
Yep.
the hospital, because so many women will not report their rapes.
Exactly. Report it, follow through on
Yeah.
it, because
Absolutely.
if we do that consistently, it's been difficult over the years for women who have had sexual assault to get justice. Um,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it's especially when
Yeah.
the situation isn't very clearly I knocked you out and dragged you in the bushes, right? When it starts getting to more
Right.
complicated scenarios, it can be very difficult. But consistently, constantly fighting that fight as a group, as a culture,
Mm-hmm.
that will change things. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
maybe it won't be me personally getting justice, but I'm going to get justice for a person down the line. And that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's good
Right.
karma for me, right? By
That's
by
good for
me
everybody.
stepping up,
Yeah.
well, I'm looking at it from a pure selfish point of view. If you're going to look at it from a pure selfish point of view, it's still good
Mm.
karma for me because I made this happen, and maybe the next person is going to get
Hmm.
believed, right?
Mm.
Maybe the
Yeah.
next person is going to get actual justice, and I share a part of that
Yeah.
justice,
Look
right?
at
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
No tolerance
Definitely.
of this. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I get so infuriated by these kind of, and maybe this is a different, maybe we should talk about this on a different podcast, but I get very, very frustrated by and very angry about sexual assault that happens in the martial
Mm-hmm.
arts world. It makes me incredibly angry. And maybe we should talk about that
Oh,
in a different podcast. I'm happy
I'm
to
right
do
there
that.
with you on that. Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
I
Yeah.
absolutely hate Sensei
Absolutely.
Scumbag, and I've written about it on the blog. I used to write a blog on the regular. That's why I didn't mention it because I haven't been writing regularly because I've been so busy. But
Right.
this is a topic that we don't talk enough about. We're not willing to address head on, and by not doing so, it happens over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
We are so
Mm.
vulnerable as a community, but
Yeah.
that's a different podcast.
Yeah. So let's move to our last question because we have like 12-ish minutes left.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll
We
have
want to
Evelyn
spend
wrap
a
us
little
up.
time on that. Yeah. So, as we were talking about the assumptions that are made and how do we overcome them that are made, the assumptions that are made about self-defense?
I think there's a lot of information out there that is half poorly understood or is based on old data.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get good information on the realities of violence, on the realities of
Mm-hmm.
crime, on the realities
Mm.
of assault in general, criminal or not, because just because it's not
Yeah.
criminal doesn't mean it's not assault.
True.
And understanding
Right.
what really people don't understand what actual self defense is, the legality of it, and the ethics of it. And I think the only thing you can really do is educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. And then look to
Yes.
some of the experts in the
Yeah.
field. Again, Rory Miller's a really good one. There is a series of, there's a book and like a series of courses that are aimed at gun owners. But I think it's really good in general. It's by a man named
Mm.
Andrew Branca, and he wrote The Law of Self Defense. It helps talk you through
Mm.
the legalities of self defense and how to be successful in a self-defense scenario.
Mm.
And it doesn't mean you have to be a lawyer. It just means you have to be sort of aware of this and understanding that in a self-defense scenario, the cops aren't on your side. They're not
Right.
on your side. If
Right.
they can put you in jail, that's a win for them. Right? So if you
yeah.
understand that, understanding, okay, if that's the case, then what do I do in a self-defense situation? And these are things that you
Right.
should look at before the moment comes. And hopefully the moment will never come. But these are little things.
Hopefully.
Understand the law, understand your personal constraints, understand the ethics as far as you understand them and can accept them, and just do your best to educate yourself as best you can. And be skeptical about advice that says, well, take your keys and you could punch the guy with your keys.
Oh, I
Take your
hate that
keys,
one.
Take your keys,
Yeah.
put
So
'em in your
dumb.
hands,
Yeah.
put them in your hands, and punch
Seriously.
something and see what happens.
Yeah.
Half
Break your
speed,
hand.
half power. If you
Right.
be skeptical, test it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Get with someone
Yeah.
you trust, a loved one, a friend, and try
Right.
it. Would that work?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it will. Because all that
Right.
does is just pushes into your palm. It doesn't do anything.
You're harming
Right.
yourself.
It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous, right?
If you can even hold on to the keys to begin with while you're trying
Yes.
that.
Right.
Yes. So, we get all the other one that used to make the rounds. The wasp spray instead of mace. Remember that?
I remember
No.
hearing
I
of
It's
don't
that.
so
hear that.
nonsense. It's so there was these self-defense gurus running around telling people to buy wasp spray because mace or pepper spray, like in some states you can't buy it, which I understand, or to get it is hard. Right now, I live in the Midwest. We can pretty much do whatever we want, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Another reason to live here. But they were saying buy wasp spray. Now, number one, pepper spray and mace has been tested as safe for human beings.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not comfortable
Right.
for human beings, but it's safe. It's not going to cause neurological damage. It's not going to cause permanent problems for most people. It's been tested, right?
Right.
Wasp spray has been tested to kill wasps. It's not
Yes.
tested on human
Right.
beings. And not only that, there's some
Humans,
tests out
yeah.
there, if you look them up on YouTube, where people did that, didn't stop the guy at all. So it's
Oh
nonsense.
no.
It's just
Yeah.
nonsense. So start to question, be skeptical, learn as much as you can, but be
Yeah.
skeptical, because there is
Yeah.
a lot of really weird and bad advice out there. And just kind of, if it sounds
definitely.
odd, it probably is.
It
odd.
probably is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it probably is. So have some skepticism. And so education is how you're going to overcome your assumptions, and being skeptical about too easy fixes. Because and sometimes people, it just gets too hard to tell the difference. So if it seems weird, don't go there. You're not.
Don't go
you just
there.
can't.
Yeah.
You don't know how to judge.
Right.
Look, there's some weird things that work great, but for if you're not going to go deeply into the study of self-defense and understand all those variables, go with the things you can execute simply, things that you can verify actually do work, and just think about it beforehand. Educate yourself and decide what works for you.
Right.
That's
So
good.
Yes.
in the vein of that, what do you think about videos that debunk other videos that are supposed to be self-defense spoofs?
Well, I think
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And I think sometimes those videos are taking when you're doing especially a short form video, like 30 seconds to a minute, right? You can only do one little factoid. It's like, boom, it's got no context. So you can't learn those things from videos online, those snippets anyway, in my opinion. So then you get the debunkers.
Right.
All they're doing is debunking things out of context. They're also out of context, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like arguing, well, this technique would never work. Well, in this context, maybe, but in this context, it works fine,
Right.
right?
Right.
And unfortunately, the world is more complex than little sound bites and little snippets of video on TikTok and YouTube. It just is. And so
Right.
my advice that you don't
Right.
take serious self-defense and advice from little snippets on YouTube and TikTok. If you see
Yes.
something you think is interesting, go search it. Go figure
Yeah.
out, Okay, what's the context? What's the meaning? What is these things before you internalize it as a self-defense tactic or strategy?
Yeah, that's
Right.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
So, I think we're done with our questions. So what I'd like to do is give you a minute to plug Kindred Protects, if you like.
Sure.
If you're in the it's in Oklahoma City, right?
No, Kansas City.
I
Oklahoma
don't know
City.
why I have you in Oklahoma
I
City.
am in the city of the
I
4-time
don't know
Super Bowl
why.
champion Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you very much.
Kansas City, yes. If you're in the Midwest and Kansas City,
yes.
feel free to talk about it for a couple minutes and plug
Sure.
it away, including your website address.
Will do. All right. So we have, again, one of the country's only full-time Filipino martial arts schools. If you're interested in learning Filipino martial arts and you want to do it frequently in a traditional martial arts format, our school, Kindred Protective Arts, kindred like is in family, protective like in protective, and arts is in martial arts.
Right.
We are in Gladstone, Missouri. We are a suburb of Kansas City. We have lots of stuff going on all the time. And you can find out what those things are at our website, which is www.kindredprotects.com. Kindred, Kindred, protects,
TS.
P-R-O-T-E-C-T-S. Okay.
TS.
.com. Yeah, I did that good. Yeah, but look us up, Kindred Protective Arts. If you Google us, you will find us. And we have our schedule is on. We have a calendar page, and we have all the things going on at our school there. And feel free to come by and check us out anytime.
Yeah, we had Jackie come
Nice.
out to Delaware for a weekend, and we trained for like 3 days. It was wonderful.
It was amazing.
It was super fun.
Well,
Yeah.
It was super fun. You guys need to come to
Lot of
Kansas
fun.
City.
Oh, I'd
I'd
love
love
that.
to.
I'll feed you deep
Yeah.
fried
Yeah, I'd love
tacos and of course barbecue.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
going to
wow.
say I better get some barbecue
Sign me
while I'm
up.
out there.
Well, yes, of course. I think it's a law in Kansas City that when we have visitors, we have to take them to barbecue. If not, the barbecue police will come find us. So,
Okay,
and I don't want to get in trouble with the barbecue police. That would be bad.
That's funny.
That's hilarious. So,
Oh,
we want to thank you, Jackie, for coming on with us today and
Yes.
talking to us about your thoughts on self-defense, especially assumptions about self-defense, and most especially assumptions about self-defense for women. I feel like I've learned a lot just listening to you talk, not
Me
just
too.
today, but also at other times we've had conversations about this sort of thing. And I just really appreciate, what you have to say.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I'm so
thank
glad
you
you
so
had me
much.
on, and it was
Yes.
good talking to you guys again,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always enjoy our conversations.
for sure.
I feel like we all speak the same language in our feelings about women and self-defense and the
Mhm.
need for awareness and protection and all that. I just was like resonating. Everything you were saying just resonated with me so much.
I'm so glad.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
I thank you very much. Thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah. Evelyn, do you have anything you want to add?
You're very welcome.
I was just echoing what the others have said. I feel like I could just continue to talk to you and learn for hours. The time really
Thank
flew.
you. I really appreciate
So
that.
I'm looking forward to the next time we can sit down and do
Yeah.
this sort of thing again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is really great. I'm so glad you had me. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'd like to thank you for joining us on this podcast episode. We want to encourage you to share this with your friends, people you care about. We're putting out regular videos on TikTok, X, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, right? Did I get them all right?
Yes. Yes,
We're
very
putting little
good.
snippets of, either the podcast that's coming up or, things that we think up. We'd like feedback. So please give us feedback. Like if you hear something you think is really great or even really terrible, maybe we farted or something, you just hated that. Tell us
Yeah,
about it.
Jeez.
We want to hear what you have to say.
It wasn't me, I swear.
Oh my god.
Most likely it would be Evelyn.
Hey
If there's
now.
any farting.
True though. I try to mute my mic in time.
Anyway, so thank you for joining us today. I'm Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Rochelle Knapp.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for joining us as we discussed such an important topic. We hope you got some food for thought and encouragement to keep going and keep growing. See you later, Bear Club.
Remember to join the Bear Club on our Patreon page for exclusive content. The link is in the description. You can find our podcast on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.